Today's question for the Contessa Answers All is, and how do you use shading, the shoulder thing, in Petite Rose and also rising in the pivet? Well, I think the best way to answer this is to demonstrate. Starting with the question about shading. Petite Rose is a fast dance. It's in piva, it's in a 6/8 time. Da 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 da. So for the shading, you could, and I sometimes do, lead with the shoulder of the foot that starts the piva. To it. I start with piva on the left. This is how it's going to look. 1, 2, 3, then the next is on the right, then the next is on the left, and the next is on the right, then the next is on the left. So that would look like this if I'm dancing about the room. It's gentle, right? I'm not really putting a great deal of emphasis on it. This is especially useful if one is trying to shoulder one's way through a crowd. So that's an option for the shoulder shading in the pivet. Other spots in Petite Rose where one could shoulder shade. For instance, during the movimenti, you actually can put some shoulder motion into this. So movimento, we think perhaps is some kind of rising and lowering of the body with some sort of gesture that any gentleman may make to a lady in public. So to add shoulders to that, instead of just going up and coming down this very vertical linear fashion, you could roll a shoulder back, roll the other shoulder back. It depends on what you're trying to convey. So that's another way to add shading. So in time to the music, that would look like this. Da-da, and then the second one someone else does. Okay, so we have shoulder shading on the piva, shoulder shading on the movimenti. You can also add shoulder shading to the dopey, the 3 steps forward, 2 steps back section of the dance. Again, you're going to lead with the shoulder, with the foot that leads the doppio, the double. So in this case, that's always going to be from the left foot in this dance. So that would look like this. So I lead left, right, left. And then on the back, you actually can also add shoulder shading there to really emphasize the drawing steps. Again, the shoulder of the foot that leads the move. So we go shade, shade. Obviously, I'll be holding someone's hand for this part if I'm lucky enough to have a partner in the times of play. So shade, shade. Or someone on the other hand, shade, shade. Another spot you could add the shoulder shading is on the saltarelli, the final explosion at the end, right? So if we imagine I have my partner here, and I'm going to do my saltarelli this way. So I could go step, 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 hop, and I can lead with that shoulder going back if I like. So in essence, I guess you can really add shoulder shading to any step. Again, I recommend that it not be too dramatic. No melodrama, please. These dances are already melodramatic enough. We don't need to add anything to it in that regard. Okay, so that's shoulder shading. So let's talk about that rise and fall. So, part 2 of the question, how can I add the rise and fall to the pivet in Petite Rose? Okay. This is also easy. I apologize for that screeching noise. That is the photobombing Contessa's kitty. So, weight as on our right foot. So for the rise and fall of the piva, it's the same idea. It's up, but the tempo is going to be different, obviously, because it's a piva. So in this case, it's going to be up, up, flat, up, up, flat, up, up, flat. Looks like this. Up, up, flat, 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 up. Obviously, this really does necessitate that you add, or you dance on the front halves of your feet. You can't really rise up if you don't come off of your heels. And in honesty, a piva at this tempo almost naturally has that rising and falling because the second step is so much shorter at this tempo that it creates an up, up, flat, up, flat. Right? That's kind of naturally happens. And then if I add my shoulder shading to that, and dance around the room, stepping on the strings of my ballet slippers. So that's how you can add the up flat to a piva tempo, piva. Well, that has been the Contessa Answers All. Thank you very much for submitting your questions. please keep them coming, and I will continue to address them in future thrilling editions of the Contessa Answers All. Keep dancing.
What?
Meow, meow. Meow, meow.
You try not to look at it.